What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and welcome back to the 32-team 7-round mock draft series, where today we're going to be taking a look at the team that holds the 23rd overall pick in the NFL draft, and that is the Houston Texans. And very easy mock draft to make for the Houston Texans because their needs are very, very clear. And the biggest need of all is protecting Deshaun Watson. It's pretty much been beaten into the ground how much he was the most sacked quarterback last year, one of the most sacked quarterbacks ever. And when you have a guy like Deshaun Watson, it's not the biggest body QB, you need to keep him upright. I personally am a huge fan of Deshaun Watson. I've made it clear on the channel many times over that I'm a huge Deshaun Watson fan. I loved him at Clemson, and I pulled for him at Houston. Houston's one of the teams that I low-key hope do well in the AFC, but you got to protect my boy, and that is what we are going to try to do here today. And, fill in some other holes along the way. So without further ado, at pick 23, I have the Houston Texans selecting DILLARD, offensive tackle from Washington State. He had as good of a combine as any offensive lineman that attended, 4.96, 40-yard dash, 24 reps on the bench press, was pretty much top 5 in all the other like jumping and agility drills. And he's one of the better pass blockers coming into the draft. He's a day one starter at left tackle, looking at the current landscape here for the Houston Texans. But there is a little bit of risk because we don't really know about his run blocking. Did not have to run block a lot at Washington State. They run that air raid. Because that is a big unknown, I mean, there is some concerns, but the fact that you can't go wrong with someone who, from the tape alone, throwing in with great athleticism, has the pass blocking skills to be an immediate upgrade for the Houston Texans. You can't go wrong with DILLARD at pick 23. Now, if we were looking as maybe a top 10 team that needs an offensive tackle badly, would I be looking at someone like DILLARD? Considering the hype around his combine, that is a big overdraft, and I kind of had him as a boomer bust prospect if he does go higher than, say, in the 20s to any of these teams that still need offensive linemen. But at 23 to the Houston Texans, getting an athletic guy that has a ceiling to be a franchise tackle all damn day. Going into the second round with Houston Texans, have 2 second-round picks. First up at 54, I am selecting Michael DEITER, offensive lineman from Wisconsin. He's a versatile offensive lineman. He's played guard, tackle, and center at Wisconsin. I think right now can play guard or tackle at an NFL level. He did have an average combine, didn't look anything special, but from that, doesn't really hurt his stock either. It might not rise his stock, but doesn't hurt it. So then you got to refer back to the tape where not a ton of offensive line tape that I have watched this year. I have watched a lot of Michael DEITER because I have had him mocked to the Philadelphia Eagles in mock drafts of the past. I think he's a really, really nice prospect, has great athletic ability for being a little bit bigger, and I honestly think he's a day one starter for the Houston Texans, either at guard or tackle. If they get DILLARD in the first round, there's a legitimate shot that not a Julian Davenport or Central Henderson will start at tackle. You could very well see a DILLARD-DEITER offensive line on the tackles for the Houston Texans. Either way, though, I think DEITER will find a way to start, and the fact that Houston gets 2 big-time upgrades to their offensive line in back-to-back picks, how can you hate it? Especially if you're a Texan fan that wants, you want Deshaun Watson to stay healthy. You want him to have a clean pocket to find the best wide receiver in the NFL in DeAndre Hopkins. Going to pick number 55 in the second round to pair with said DeAndre Hopkins, I am selecting JACE STERNBERGER, tight end from Texas A&M. I'll be completely honest with you. The Jordan Atkins pick in the third round last year was kind of baffling to me. I thought that was one of the bigger reaches in the entire draft. They made up for it because they got excellent value in Justin Reed at Stanford, so we kind of just moved past it. But they still don't have that tight end. They still don't have Deshaun Watson's safety net, even though they kind of have a safety net clearly in DeAndre Hopkins. But the prototypical tight end safety net across the middle of the field, they don't have that. And a guy like JACE STERNBERGER is arguably the best receiving tight end in this year's draft class. I think I probably would put him ahead of Irv Smith and maybe just a little bit behind Noah Fant at this given point. But the fact that he's excellent down the seam, he has great catchability, great route running, yards after the catch. He's a solid athlete, not an exceptional or elite athlete like a Noah Fant, which is why he's going to be, later second round than, say, first round buzz. And he definitely still needs to develop a little bit as a run blocker, but you see the nice base there. And in terms of play style, he's a like for Mark Andrews, who was one of my favorite tight ends last year out of Oklahoma. Was the second tight end that the Baltimore Ravens drafted and ended up being the best tight end on their roster as a rookie. They got Hayden Hurst in the first round, who had some injuries and stuff like that. But Mark Andrews stepped up to the plate and had a really productive year. And I see very similar production, maybe even more upside from STERNBERGER when it comes in. It seems like a lot of people right now in the scouting community are coming around to STERNBERGER, but I've been high on him since day one. And as soon as he declared for this year's draft class, because maybe he wasn't going to declare, only had one really big year at Texas A&M, maybe would have went for another one. But coming out, man, he's a big-time threat for Deshaun Watson and Bill O'Brien, and I think he'd be a perfect fit for Houston. Going into the third round at pick 86, I'm selecting Isaiah Johnson, cornerback from Houston. He had a huge combine. He was a converted wide receiver to cornerback at 6'2", 210, 4.40. He has great length. And for one of these guys that has converted positions, he has some pretty good technique already. Got a nice sound base and really is already excellent in press coverage. And I personally feel like this is where I differentiate from other scouts. I don't think he's as much of a project as some people do think. I think at pick 86, I would jump all over that. Ideally, he won't be rushed, and debatably with Houston, might need someone to get on the field sooner than later. They got Jonathan Joseph, who's a veteran, still good enough to start. Aaron Colvin's more of a nickel. You got Breon Body Calhoun from the Browns, more of a nickel. So they might need someone to start outside corner, unless they're kind of waiting on a veteran right now. I'm still absolutely shocked to let Kareem Jackson walk, especially considering he kind of rejuvenated his career last year. He's been there for a long time. I feel like they probably offered him like a slap in the face hometown discount, and he's like, no, I'm going to go cash out here. So there's a pretty big need here for cornerback. I think a guy like Isaiah Johnson has the athletic ability. If you have to throw him to the wolves right away, he won't look out of place. And when his technique does let him down, he has the athletic ability to make up for the play and hopefully not get, burnt for the full 6 points on the board. And you get a gamble that maybe he can learn his technique on the fly and learn the scheme on the fly. But in terms of upside and for the fact that the Houston Texans do need to bring in some guys there in the secondary, I think Isaiah Johnson is a very nice pick at 86. And I actually had to come back in because I just forgot they did bring in Bradley Roby from the Denver Broncos on a 1 year. So again, going back to the fact that you don't have to rush Isaiah Johnson, that also is definitely a little bit better and more ideal that you have Roby and Joseph that can start on the outside right away, and then you can work in Isaiah Johnson. Going to the 5th round at pick 161, I was selecting Marvell Tell III, safety from USC. There's a lot of turnover here at the safety position. They lost Honey Badger. Andre Howell retired. I hope it wasn't anything about the cancer reactivating. That was one of the best stories last year, so I hope everything's good there. They have Justin Reed, the 3rd round pick in 2018, which is one of the best value picks. They brought in Tashawn Gibson, who was a surprise release maybe, from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still a productive safety. But who do they have at that 3rd safety? Breon Body Calhoun played a little bit of safety, played a little bit of nickelback. He's kind of a versatile player. But beyond that, there's just not a lot of depth. And you look at a guy like Marvell Tell, he had a really, really good combine. Didn't run a 40, but he had a 42-inch vert, 11-foot 4-inch broad, which is like some of the best out of that whole position. He has some pretty good tape. He's a cover-style safety. Don't let his size fool you at 6'2", 200 pounds. Not the best tackler, but he's a kind of long-limbed, rangy guy that's ideal in today's NFL for covering the tight ends and just generally bringing more depth and special teams ability to the Houston Texans. Going to the 6th round at pick 195, I was selecting Alex Bars, offensive guard from Notre Dame. Lots of upside. I think potentially could be one of the best day 3 values in the draft class. He is coming off an injury, and I think because of the injury, he wasn't able to do a lot of the off-field workouts. I think only had to be limited to the bench press, so he will slip just a little bit. When you look at the tape, I mean, you look a little bit last year next to Quentin Nelson on that very good offensive line. He looked pretty good. He was really, really promising. I think if he would have played the whole season, been healthy, maybe day 2 prospect, but I think he'll be there maybe in the 6th round. Maybe that's a little too far down, but I just had him for how my mock draft went. He's a powerful offensive guard, very well rounded, played guard and tackle at Notre Dame, and I think he's a legit shot to earn a starting job as soon as he's 100%. I don't have an exact update on his injury status. I don't know if he's going to be 100% come training camp, but again, when you look at the Houston Texans, it's really easy just to see, you hope Nick Martin, the 2nd round pick in 2016, can turn around, but other than that, they took a flyer on Matt Khalil. Yeah, there's just a bunch of not much there on the offensive line. I did like the Martinez Rankin pick at a Mississippi State 3rd round pick in 2018. Maybe he can continue to develop a little bit, but pretty much any offensive lineman, there's a chance they could emerge as a starter here for Houston. They kind of, I'm not going to say they're going to try to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, but that's kind of what you have to do when you have a historically bad offensive line like they had last year and weren't able to invest in free agency and bring in some notable guys. So a guy like Alex Bars, like I said, here first, could emerge as one of the best day 3 value picks in the entire draft. Then finishing up the draft in the 7th round at pick 220, I was selecting James Williams, the running back from Washington State. He's one of the best receiving running backs in this year's draft class. I got a James White comparison for him, and obviously we've been able to see the damage that James White has done for the New England Patriots. Obviously Bill O'Brien is a disciple of that Patriots offense, probably looking for that guy. And right now on the roster, they have Lamar Miller, who can kind of do those things, but he's not really a receiving back. Deontay Foreman, more of a power back. They don't really have that receiving option. And a guy like James Williams will have a spot right away on that Houston Texan running back by committee. And I think because he had an average combine at best, because he was 5'9", well under 200 pounds, running at 4.58, comes from a gimmicky offense, he's just going to be one of those players that's going to slip through the cracks a little bit in the draft and go into later days, day 3, and still sitting there in the 7th round. Given what he will offer to the Houston Texans running back core, I think it is a very nice pickup and another weapon that Deshaun Watson can utilize out of that backfield and maybe get hit less, because he'll be able just to dump it off more often than not, rather than holding onto the ball, trying to make something wow happen and end up eating a sack. So there you go, guys. That is my mock draft here for the Houston Texans. Let me know what you feel about it in the comment section below, especially if you're a Texan fan. I think we got all the bases covered, though. There's no, I mean, maybe because the D-line class is very, very good, maybe they could have got one of them at some point. It just didn't fall for me in this mock draft. But let me know what you feel about it in the comment section below. As always, if it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.